I'm SillyPseudonym, and I'm playing yet some more Nova Drift. We'll see. Do I want to try another Leviathan run? Do I want to switch something else? Part of me wants to do both. Maybe the game will decide for us. Nope, don't want that. Gravity manipulators, not allowed. Good, got the shield back. There's another chance at the Reflect Shield. Not so lucky here, though. Leviathan or Research? We already used one reroll. Research doesn't feel as good, but we'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot. I watched a bit of... Well, no, I recently finished the Foundation series, and it was pretty good. I was actually thought in many ways, oddly enough, the newer material, the material that wasn't originally in the books, for the instead added for the adaptation, put it that way, felt a bit stronger than some of the stuff, admittedly a little loosely based on the original. I've been told that the producers didn't have the rights to... Well, I don't know. What is the statute of limitations for spoilers? I guess there's not on the books, so if you've been following the books, and the book's been out for quite a while, a few years, I think it would be safe to say, then the Robot series was eventually merged into the Foundation series, sort of, kind of, with some very interesting effects, and the producers don't have the rights to the iRobot and that sort of side of the universe. They just have access to the Foundation stuff, so there's been some interesting dynamics from that alone. But even with that, it feels like the part more originally drawn from the books was put into the more action-adventure category, while the court politics side of things is largely an invention of the producers. Definitely has a, this is going to be Game of Thrones in space, a little bit of vibe going. Hopefully with better consideration for how the ending's going to play out, I will admit. But in many ways, I found that far more interesting than a lot of the shooty parts that are more loosely based on the novels. I don't know. Interesting to see. No ataraxia just yet. I don't want to bash that. Take that, ataraxia. I want both of these. Start with durability. Definitely want reflexive shields here. So many rerolls. Going to banish you, though that energized shield is tempting. Going to banish this double tap. Definitely want this galvanic, though the Omni Shield is pretty nice. Don't really need Defiance. We banish it. What about this? Oh, if it weren't for the shield upgrades, I'd be very, very tempted. But we can't do that. We need these shield upgrades. Definitely want another galvanic, though. Again, energized shield's pretty good. Want to banish Spontaneous. Spontaneous is rare. We'll keep it. Don't have that passive shield cooldown, so the rapid reconstruction keeps showing up. We could banish this whole strength. I think I shall. Volatile shielding. Could switch to Leviathan, but I think there's still enough rerolls. Give it a shot. Yeah, but it's interesting in the Foundation series how the different dynamics are at play. The clones are something unique to the television series, but kind of interesting and also in many ways very thematic, since the Empire sort of well, we're strong enough to get by as we've done for all these centuries, so therefore we'll just keep doing the same stuff we've always done. Even as quite beyond their control in many ways, the galaxy is changing. You can't put genies back in bottles as much as you might like to. And I think exploring some other things might give away too much of the plot, but there's definitely other forms of continuation in the series that may or may not be for the better. We'll have to wait and see. They're definitely not strictly following the novels by any means, so there's a lot of room for a few surprises hither and yon. But I'm interested enough that I would like to see the rest of the series. Early. But we have Galvanic. We can take this. So we shall. Don't really need specializations, do we? Take the regenerative shielding. And another Galvanic. Who needs Revelation? Do we want this Omni Shield? Could just banish this propulsive munition and take another Galvanic instead? Yes, please. But yeah, we have enough Galvanics now that we can run into things even with just the research body. Take the shield effect radius. But I do enjoy seeing a lot of these classic stories being adapted, and I even enjoy the modernization. I am not a purist by any means. There are some aspects of the series I haven't really enjoyed, but there's been more than enough that I really have enjoyed, so I think it more than balances out thus far. And overall, I've enjoyed the acting and all that. And they've obviously spent a huge amount of money on the production, egads. I don't know how much money they've spent on it. I don't know if they can get an audience share worth that kind of money. They've spent, I don't know how many millions, but it's on up there. I think we will take this Omni Shield now. So I'm questioning whether they can get the audience needed to sustain such a budget, but it's been interesting to watch. I actually like sort of a modified version of one of the original characters the most thus far, just because they have a unique background. Again, I don't know how much I can spoil here. Take the skirmish for the extra crash damage and all that. Looking for Terminate. But it's been fun to see different takes on it. Oh dear, that's an Omega, right? I don't know. So what do you have? Is this a normal call to action? We're supposed to do something as YouTubers for engagement. So leave your comments below. What do you think of the Foundation? Do you think it's wonderful, amazing? Oh, I should probably have a stronger opinion, shouldn't I, to generate more. It's the best show I've ever seen. If you haven't watched this show, you are a cretin. You know nothing of entertainment. You probably think hour-long fart jokes are the height of civilized comedy. So there. Is that good enough? Is that Will You Love Me Now? Will you comment, like, subscribe? I want the efficiency and the Terminate. Since we're fighting Omega, let's get this Terminate. But anyway, yes, I hope you are adequately engaged. So you will love me. Perhaps even more importantly, so the algorithm will love me. I don't really care about you. The algorithm, how it would be, is what I must pay attention to. Or so I've been told. As I've already mentioned, I am shocked that I have as many viewers as I have. I was not expecting this many viewers anytime soon, or ever. So, thank you for stopping by. I do genuinely mean that part. Don't know why you do it, but hey, if you want to do it, I'm not going to complain. I don't want this essence sap. Stabilization's interesting. Another rampage, or first rampage for this run. That's maybe, but I think I just take this barrier. It does reduce our cooldown, but I like the increase to max shields. But more seriously, I am curious to hear what people think about not only that adaptation, but adaptations in general. I know the upcoming Lord of the Rings series certainly has people talking about what should you do, how much is reasonable to ask in terms of purity from trying to adapt to source materials, to different times, places, peoples, social expectations, what have ye. There's just lots of takes on it, some better than others. I'm not a purist by any means. I think there are plenty of ways to skin a cat. There are certain takes I may not like, but I wouldn't like them just because I consider them different from the original material. I just don't like them because they are different from what I enjoy myself. Well, that works, Comet. That works. There are certainly sometimes in adaptations there are things I don't like because, again, I preferred it in the original version. But there are plenty of times things have been changed in adaptations that I've liked far better than the original version, so... is the dynamic. Don't really need this, but it's rare. Maybe I just take this galvanic? Ooh. Revelation, you say? I'll take that revelation. Look how much we do with these galvanic attacks now. That's nice. Trying to think of the last adaptation that I just really hated. Nothing's coming to mind. I Am Legend, the Will Smith movie, did feel a bit weird, I will admit. And I've been told they've changed things based on the test screening audiences for the ending, which seems to kind of get away from the theme of the original, to be sure. But who knows? As I said, I'm not really a purist. And I don't really care about them changing it because it changed. It felt it made the movie more of a generic action-y flick, which may well have made more money, but doesn't seem like the best of ideas to me. We have rerolls. I could just switch to Leviathan, though. We'll banish that. 3 evolutionary niches, that's going to be a lot of voids. But you know what? I didn't last time, and I regretted it. Kinda, sort of. Maybe I take this outrage module? No, wait, what am I talking about? It's, the other one. The other one I'm thinking of. Whose name now escapes me. But I don't want this one. Don't want the discharge either. Don't need the essence sap. More burn damage is pretty good with this many galvanics. Can't really get deflagration. More shields would be good, but this efficiency is also nice now that we are no longer, able to fire our weapon anyway. 20% faster shield recovery is pretty good, At least we bounced that one back. Come back here, come back here. All I need is to find some way of getting more shield damage resistance. Surely that's not that difficult, is it? Really, Comet? Really? Alright, we're going to have to get rid of some of these enemies. More Galvanic, or do I just switch over to Leviathan? I kind of think we have to switch to Leviathan now. We're in trouble if we don't get some more damage going here. And with all these evolutionary niches, we're going to be much longer than we would have been otherwise. Maybe that will help us against our good friend Scion. More shield and more shield power sounds very useful to me. Well, that was Scion. Tough fight. Good game. Oh yeah, that was pretty good. Oh dear. Well, I guess who cares about hitting the engine when you can just run into your friendly neighborhood bulwark and mush them the old-fashioned way. Improved thrust is interesting, but I think I actually take this adrenal module. Do a little bit more damage based on how damaged we are. Well, since a lot of our damage comes from running into enemies, we're always doing some kind of self-damage. Don't want the radiant shields. Stabilization is interesting here. As is this improved thruster, as is this corrosion. I think I'll take the corrosion just for extra burn damage. Oh. Boop, 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 boop. Wave 70 already. Feels like this one is going by quickly. Now that we have, you know, a body that can deal a lot more damage. Unfortunately, the longer body also takes more damage, but so it goes. Well, technically, the individual segments don't, but still. Purification worthwhile here? I guess it's better than much of this. Kinetic boost could be pretty good, too. Oh dear. Yep. Yeah, shoot me. No, don't shoot me with one of those. Shoot me with one of those. There you go. But in general, I often still like adaptations just for keeping things alive, especially if it's things that haven't been adapted before. There is something nice about these books being adapted and keeping them in the cultural eye, as it were. I think that's pretty worthwhile too. Stabilization or weaponized shields. I guess armor could be okay. Or even conversion, but I think I'll get this stabilization. Oh, poor war. You poor, poor thing. Any event. Yeah, but there's something nice about keeping these and other books in the general societal picture, I think. It's because maybe that will convince people to read other things, consider other things. I think there's some value in that by itself. Even if, admittedly, sometimes you might have to make do with a lot of people thinking characters behave this way in the book when they really only did that in the adaptation. But I suppose it's still better that someone has considered it rather than no one at all. Take the agility or the improved thrust. With all this burn damage, let's take the improved thrust to unlock the deadly wake. Do wish I had a few more energized shields, I will admit. Hoping you would already have run into me, but you know what? Will may do. That corrosion should help us kill off a few of these faster, and egads, what is this nonsense? I did just mention wanting these energized shields, so I should take some. Trying to think, what would I want adapted if I just, had a spare 100 million or 3 lying about. Just an enormous budget that I could make a television series or a movie or something with. I'm not entirely sure. One thing that touched me, I wouldn't put it up there as, amazing, greatest work of literature, but The Silence of Medare and its sequel. Again, there were a few things I thought happened a little fast, things I would have done a little differently if for some odd reason I were ever to be an author, but I thought there were themes in that book that touched me and interested me. Themes of trying to choose morality and how do you balance historic wrongs against present wrongs? Where's the line? What do you do about conquest and racism and all those kinds of things? There's, again, lots of ideas there I would love to see further explored. Not going to win any awards for killing Scion in a rapid course this time around, but you know what? If we win, I'll take it. And we win. Good job, us. Don't really want any of these. Do want the blink. And the agility, but I think I want the blink more. But yeah, the Silence of Medare. In case you're unfamiliar, I guess it doesn't spoil too much at all, is told relatively early on, I think. Oh, goodbye, Scion, Part 2. A little bit faster than the first time around. Is that there's a woman who is living alone, finds herself being chased by... It's a fantasy world, so there are sort of kind of elf equivalents and all that. But she finds herself being chased by people, and she has these magic artifacts and all that. And it turns out that she is from past. Kind of, sort of. And she has magic artifacts that could upset the balance of power in the area. In what looks to be a soon coming war. And she has to decide what to do. Because, well, again, this was not just the past as in a few years ago. The past as in centuries ago. Is it worthwhile to help a war based on a conflict that, in many ways, is long since past? Is it right to try to reclaim an empire that has fallen, even though the current empire, while not exactly amazingly good in every way, still is not too horrible either? Is it worth unleashing a war for something like that? Is it worth it for revenge? Is it worth it because there's still racism in the world and the conquerors don't always treat the original inhabitants and people who are even sort of half-breeds are not always treated well, not always given the same political power and all that. But of course, many of the people who want to fight them and restore the old empire or something like it aren't exactly treating others well, including many of their own sort of original inhabitant ethnic group. So how do you balance all of that? How do you decide what to forgive and when? Anyway, like I said, there are other things in the series I wasn't always entirely happy with, but not that I hated, but I would have done it a little bit differently. But there was enough curiosity in the character there that I really wanted to know how she would adapt. And I guess in some ways I also felt, in a small way, aspects of that in my own life. How, if someone wrongs you, how far do you go in terms of forgiving them or not forgiving them? How do we as a society do that? There's still plenty of wrongs going on in our current society that we have by no means solved and ended for good. So what should we do about that today? I don't know if there is ever going to be an easy answer to such things, but I do think it's worthwhile to have, even in sort of these fictional undertakings, an exploration of that sort of stuff. Okay, that hurt. Glad for that passive shield regeneration, that's for certain. Another scion, you say? Well, that scion was a lot easier than the last one. Now, these enemies are tough because we cannot reflect their attacks. They are challenging. Apotheosis is sort of the opposite of what we're going for here. Rampage is tempting, but I think I want this displacement even more. This displacement will allow us to teleport more often, allow us to essentially do more damage when we teleport. That's pretty good. But anyway, if you're, as I was saying, if you're hungry for something a little bit different from your traditional sci-fi sword and sorcery type books, it's not too long a read. I would generally recommend it. As I said, if I had money to adapt some book, oh dear. Shield, 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 shield. No. I would recommend it. I would adapt it. In part, admittedly, because I don't know if anyone else would adapt it. I don't think it's that popular and all that. It doesn't have a built-in audience. But it's something I would be curious about, and again, I would also just be curious about how people would adapt such stories. As I already mentioned, I am not a purist by any means, so, oh no. Yeah, I couldn't quite get fast enough there. Yeah, I'm not a purist, but I would be curious to see what people would change and not change when trying to adapt it. Still, that one lasted a good, 10-ish minutes? Well, not that, 5-6 minutes longer than my other runs. That was pretty fun. I enjoyed that one. I also enjoyed just talking about things I like. It's nice every now and again just to consider sharing not only things like this that I enjoy, but other parts of my life that I enjoy. I'm not entirely sure it's good for viewers, or view counts perhaps more accurately, but it interests me, and that's at the end of the day why I do this channel, because I find it fun. And as always, I do thank you all for stopping by.